Welcome to this deep dive. If you're joining us today, you already know that we love taking a massive stack of complex sources and distilling them down into the insights you actually need to know.
Right.
And today, our mission is it's probably one of the most urgent we have ever tackled. We are unpacking the rapid, almost dizzying escalation of modern information warfare and AI-driven influence campaigns.
It really is a critical time to be having this conversation. And we are pulling from a remarkably diverse stack of sources for this deep dive today.
Yeah, a really big stack.
Yeah, we have fresh threat intelligence reports from Flashpoint and Anomaly. We've got academic papers on cybersecurity ethics from Towson University,
Yeah.
a policy review on democratic resilience from a PMC, a private military contractor think tank,
Right.
and some truly incisive defense journalism and analysis. That comes from the Bloomsbury Intelligence and Security Institute, the Special Competitive Studies Project, and CSIS, the Center for Strategic and International Studies.
We need every single one of those perspectives, honestly, because of what is happening right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, look at the calendar. It is Wednesday, March 4th, 2026. Just days ago, on February 28th, Operation Epic Fury began.
Right, the Middle East.
Exactly. And while the whole world is glued to their screens, watching kinetic missile strikes and the physical conflict between the U.S., Israel, and Iran, there is an invisible, highly advanced war happening at the exact same time.
Happening real time.
Yeah. It is targeting our networks, our apps, and honestly, our very perception of reality.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Go on.
With missiles physically flying, why are modern militaries dedicating such massive resources to digital strikes at the exact same time?
The great question.
How do those two domains actually interact on the battlefield?
Well, they interact by fundamentally ceasing to be separate domains.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, what we are observing right now with Operation Epic Fury is the total synchronization of physical and cyber warfare.
Okay.
According to the defense reporting we reviewed from CSIS, U.S. Cyber Command acted as a first mover here.
Meaning they went in before the strikes? Exactly. Before the first physical munitions ever left a launch pad or a runway, cyber ops were already deployed and active inside Iranian networks.
Wow.
They were gathering real-time intelligence, sure, but more importantly, they were actively degrading Iran's integrated air defense systems and their early warning radars.
Oh, I see. So you have to digitally blind the adversary's sensors so your physical strike packages can reach their targets safely.
That's the tactical reality of it, yes.
That makes sense from a machinery standpoint, but the sources also detail a psychological side to this synchronization that absolutely blows my mind.
The app hack.
Yes, there is a massive real-world example detailed in the threat intelligence reports. The compromise of an app called Bide Saba.
Right.
For context, if you listening aren't familiar with it, Bide Saba is a hugely popular Islamic prayer calendar app in Iran.
Very popular.
It has over 5 million active users. And right as the airstrikes were hitting, the app's infrastructure was compromised.
Which is just wild timing.
It is. Push notifications were hijacked to send anti-regime messages directly to the phones of millions of everyday citizens.
Messages offering amnesty.
Yeah, offering amnesty and forgiveness to anyone who stood down. I mean, imagine the sheer psychological dissonance of that moment.
Right, you're sitting at home.
Your phone buzzes for a routine, familiar prayer reminder, but instead it's a message implying the government is collapsing, all while you can hear actual air raid sirens outside your window.
It is a profoundly effective, incredibly modernized psychological operation.
It really is.
And the Iranian government's response to this kind of intense digital pressure has been sweeping.
The blackout.
Yeah. To stop these external messages from circulating and, to prevent domestic protest coordination, they initiated a near-total internet blackout.
Wow.
Our sources indicate that right now the country is operating at roughly 1 to 4% of its normal internet capacity.
That is essentially nothing.
It's a desperate defensive measure. They are trying to quarantine the population from the information space.
Which leads to a wild paradox.
It does.
Because while the state has plunged its own citizens into a severe digital blackout, Iranian offensive hackers are actively using commercial Starlink satellite internet.
Right, bypassing their own firewall.
Exactly. They are bypassing their own government's firewall. They are relying on an American company's satellite constellation to maintain command and control for their retaliatory cyber attacks against American and allied targets.
That paradox actually exposes a massive shift in how we must think about infrastructure today.
How so?
Well, degrading a nation's domestic internet capacity no longer guarantees you degrade their offensive cyber capabilities.
Yeah.
Commercial space-based internet has just completely decentralized the battlefield.
That is a fascinating point. Now, before we go any deeper into the mechanics of these operations, I want to take a brief second to remind you listening that we are here strictly to impartially report on the facts of this conflict and the political messaging involved.
Yes, absolutely.
We are analyzing the specific tactics detailed in our source material. We are not endorsing any state's geopolitical actions, justifications, or viewpoints. Our goal is solely to help you understand the invisible machinery of what is happening behind the headlines.
And to understand that machinery, we have to recognize that the fundamental goal of these operations has evolved.
Evolved how?
We have moved entirely beyond traditional information warfare
Yeah.
into what defense circles now call cognitive warfare.
Cognitive warfare.
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the objective is no longer just hacking a server or stealing a password or even blocking a website.
Right.
NATO General Paulo Ruggiero defined it perfectly in one of our academic sources. The goal is no longer just controlling what you think, but hacking the way you process information in the first place.
I mean, that distinction is terrifying. It isn't hacking the computer, it is hacking the human mind.
Exactly.
And looking at the materials from the Special Competitive Studies Project, it seems no one has formalized this approach quite like the People's Republic of China.
They've really systemized it.
Yeah, their report dives deep into China's new doctrine, which they term algorithmic cognitive warfare.
Right.
This isn't the old school megaphone-style mass propaganda where you just drop a million identical leaflets out of a plane.
No, not at all.
It is a pivot toward highly individualized precision influence. So how exactly do they pull that off on a mass scale?
It relies entirely on weaponizing the algorithms that already govern our digital lives. Chinese military scholars have actually broken this down into a highly methodical theoretical model containing 6 distinct stages.
Okay, let's walk through those.
Stage 1 is the user portrait. Before they ever send you a message, they vacuum up vast amounts of granular, seemingly mundane data.
Like what kind of data?
They analyze your browsing habits, your financial transactions, how quickly you scroll past certain social media posts, what times of day you are most active.
So all metadata we just give away constantly.
Exactly. And they use this data to map your specific psychological state, your hidden biases, and your emotional vulnerabilities.
So they build a digital voodoo doll of your psyche,
That is a great way to put it.
which sets up stage 2 perfectly, which is attracting attention.
Right.
Once they have that portrait, they use AI to generate content that is perfectly, almost eerily tailored to capture your real-time needs or anxieties.
Yes. If the data shows you are stressed about local crime, they feed you a highly sensationalized hyperlocal story about it.
And then comes stage 3, which they call suggesting reference. This is where the trap really springs. Let's say you are worried about the safety of your local tap water.
Okay.
They use massive bot networks to artificially boost a specific fabricated narrative about water contamination so it goes viral.
Right. They manufacture a trend.
Because you see it trending on your own feed, you think you are stumbling onto an organic movement. You believe you are making a completely independent judgment based on a genuine public outcry.
What is most dangerous about that third stage is how seamless and organic it feels to the target.
Yeah.
You never know you're being pushed. From there, the doctrine moves to stage 4, inducing reaction. Once you are paying attention to this seemingly organic trend, they push specific inducement messaging designed to bypass your logical brain and trigger an emotional response.
So they want you angry or scared.
They want you to act. They want you to share the post, leave an angry comment, or join a digital group. That engagement naturally flows into stage 5, timely intervention.
Which means?
As this new online community grows around the shared anxiety, state actors subtly inject new messaging to control how the group evolves. They steer the anger toward a specific political target or policy goal.
And then the final stage closes the trap. Supervising gratification.
Right.
At this point, they lock you into a self-sustaining echo chamber. The group becomes so tightly knit around this shared, manipulated reality that the state actors barely have to do anything anymore.
They just watch it run.
The group polices itself. It aggressively rejects any outside truthful information that contradicts the narrative. They have successfully reprogrammed how a segment of the population processes reality.
And this is far beyond theoretical wargaming.
Yeah.
The source highlight a very real Chinese system called Galaxy. This system maintains incredibly detailed AI-driven profiles on U.S. lawmakers, policy professionals, and thousands of cultural influencers.
Doesn't just monitor them, right?
No, it generates personalized, highly persuasive propaganda tailored to those specific individuals at a massive scale. They're automating the psychological manipulation of the very people who make our laws and shape our culture.
Automating it. I was reading through the Bloomsbury Intelligence and Security Institute report you flagged for me, and I saw a statistic regarding that automation that genuinely stopped me in my tracks.
The bot traffic one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it really true that human beings are now a minority on the internet?
Yes. According to that BSI report, in 2025, we crossed a monumental threshold. Over 50% of all web content is now AI generated.
Half the internet.
More than half. Furthermore, bot traffic officially surpassed human activity, hitting 51%. The majority of the internet, the articles, the comments, the traffic is no longer human.
That is staggering.
When you combine that sheer volume of synthetic capability with state-sponsored malice, you get incredibly sophisticated operations.
The report detailed a Russian AI tool called Meliorator that perfectly illustrates this.
Right. Meliorator.
It didn't just blast out crude, easily detectable spam. It orchestrated 1,000 highly detailed fake personas.
And these weren't empty profiles.
No. These AI-driven accounts had rich backstories, consistent political ideologies, and they engaged in deep, nuanced, seemingly human conversations with real people to subtly push pro-Kremlin narratives.
And China executed a similar strategy with their spamouflage campaign.
The news network one.
Yeah, going so far as to create a completely fake news outlet called Wolf News, anchored by AI-generated deepfake journalists who looked and sounded indistinguishable from real broadcasters.
The sheer volume of this synthetic media creates a chaotic environment where truth becomes incredibly malleable.
It does.
Which brings us to a twisted yet crucial concept in modern information warfare: malinformation.
Right, malinformation.
So misinformation is an honest mistake, like sharing an old photo thinking it's new. Disinformation is an intentional lie. But malinformation is something entirely different.
It is genuine, factual information that is weaponized and released maliciously to cause specific harm or chaos.
Weaponized truth. The academic review from Towson University highlights a classic example of this that really crystallized the concept for me: the 2017 Macron leaks in France.
A perfect example.
Right before the presidential election, hackers dumped 9 gigabytes of completely real, incredibly boring campaign emails. Mundane scheduling, lunch orders, routine staff communication.
Just massive amounts of normal data.
But buried within this mountain of boring truth, they sprinkled in a few expertly forged documents alleging illegal offshore bank accounts.
The tactical brilliance of that operation was in the timing. France has a legally mandated media blackout period immediately preceding an election.
Right.
The hackers dropped this massive cache of data just hours before that blackout went into effect.
Which meant traditional journalists couldn't legally report on it to debunk it. The campaign couldn't adequately launch a defense without violating election law.
Exactly.
And social media, which isn't bound by those rules, just went completely wild with speculation. They used 9 gigabytes of boring truth as a Trojan horse to deliver a devastating lie when the target's shields were legally forced down.
And the prevalence of these targeted fakes and the overwhelming volume of AI content have birthed a secondary psychological phenomenon known as the liar's dividend.
Explain the liar's dividend.
Because the general public is now acutely aware that flawless deepfakes and AI forgeries exist, people naturally begin to doubt real evidence.
Oh, wow.
Authoritarian regimes exploit this constantly. If a legitimate video of human rights abuses or military failures leaks online, the regime no longer has to actively suppress it.
They just blame AI.
They simply shrug and publicly label it a Western AI deepfake.
The sources gave 2 incredibly visceral examples of the liar's dividend in action.
Gabon was one.
Yeah, back in 2018 in Gabon, the president had been out of the public eye for a long time, receiving medical treatment abroad. Rumors were swirling.
Yeah.
So to prove he was fine and still in control, the government released a video address. It was a real video, but because of his medical condition, his speech and movements looked a little unnatural. It was slightly uncanny.
Right.
The political opposition immediately seized on this, declared the video a state-sponsored deepfake, And that specific accusation sparked an actual military uprising to overthrow the government.
Unbelievable.
A real video caused a coup because the idea of deepfakes existed. And then there was the 2022 deepfake of Ukrainian President Zelensky ordering his troops to lay down their arms and surrender.
Now, the Zelensky video was debunked relatively quickly by traditional media and his own immediate response.
Right.
But imagine a scenario where that video was dropped during a synchronized kinetic strike that also severs communications, much like what we are seeing in Epic Fury today.
You wouldn't be able to debunk it in time.
Exactly. The ultimate goal of the liar's dividend isn't necessarily to make you believe the fake video. The goal is to make you fundamentally doubt every video you ever see. It is about systematically destroying the shared reality required for a functioning democratic society.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though.
Oh, yeah?
What happens when these operations stop trying to trick you directly on your social media feed and instead start tricking the machines you rely on for facts?
Ah, the Pravda network.
Yes, I'm looking at the notes on the Pravda network from March 2025. This was a Russian operation that didn't target end users. It successfully contaminated major AI chatbots at the training data level.
At the root level.
Researchers discovered that 33% of the time, certain major chatbot responses were seamlessly weaving in state-sponsored propaganda as objective fact.
We have been trained to treat AI as this neutral, objective oracle that simply summarizes the internet, but the well has been poisoned at the source. Contaminating the training data is the ultimate systemic risk. It is an attack on the root level of our global knowledge infrastructure.
It really is.
And, it is very easy to hear about poisoned chatbots or social media echo chambers and dismiss it all as just digital noise, just bots arguing with bots in the cloud.
Right. Why does it matter?
But this digital manipulation has devastating, immediate physical consequences.
Exactly. Why should you, the listener, care about any of this? How does cognitive warfare actually hit your daily life?
The Pentagon hoax.
Look no further than the 2023 Pentagon explosion hoax. A verified but entirely fake social media account posted a single AI-generated image showing thick black smoke rising from the side of the U.S. Pentagon.
I remember that day.
Within minutes of that image going live, high-frequency algorithmic trading bots, which scan social media for breaking news to make split-second financial trades, saw that image.
And they reacted instantly.
The algorithms panicked, assuming a massive terrorist attack, and initiated a massive sell-off. They wiped $500 billion off the S&P 500 in a matter of minutes.
$500 billion.
Think about that. Your 401k, your retirement, institutional investments, taking a massive hit in seconds, simply because a Wall Street robot got tricked by a fake picture generated in a basement.
The risks are even more profoundly physical right now in the context of Operation Epic Fury.
How so?
The Anomaly Threat Report notes that the clock is actively ticking on Iranian cyber retaliation against civilian infrastructure.
Oh, retaliation.
We know a prominent Iranian state-sponsored threat group, known as Muddy Water, is actively deploying new AI-assisted malware families, specifically strains identified as Ghostfetch and Shi'er.
And who are they targeting?
They are targeting organizations not just in the Middle East, but across the United States.
And we aren't just talking about them stealing corporate data or defacing websites. The hacktivist proxies working alongside these groups are claiming they are actively hitting industrial control systems.
The SCADA networks.
Yes, we're talking about SCADA networks, the actual digital architecture that controls the physical machinery in power plants, water treatment facilities, and factories. The sources noted a specific incident where attackers claimed to have manipulated the temperature controls and weighing functions at a Jordanian grain silo.
Which is terrifying.
We are talking about the manipulation of the food supply and civilian logistics. So, knowing the sheer scale of this threat, how do we actually fight back? It seems obvious we can't just rely on human beings trying to spot the weird blinking in a deepfake video anymore.
No, human detection is no longer viable. The technology has far surpassed our visual and auditory limits.
So what's the fix?
The academic sources outline a critical shift toward active defense measures.
Active defense.
These are fascinating technical countermeasures designed to break the adversary's tools. One of the most prominent is called adversarial data poisoning, utilizing a framework called FOX.
I absolutely love this one. I love the idea that my inability to take a decent selfie without using a weird filter is now technically a national security defense measure. Break down how Fox actually protects a user.
Imagine you inject an invisible pixel cloak, a layer of digital noise, into your personal photos before you upload them to social media.
Okay.
To the human eye, the photo looks perfectly normal. There's no visible distortion. But if an adversarial AI scrapes your photo to train a facial recognition model or a deepfake generator, that invisible pixel layer mathematically breaks the AI's feature extraction process.
It poisons the data.
Exactly. It effectively poisons their training data, making their resulting model entirely useless when it tries to replicate or identify your face.
It is essentially wearing a digital camouflage against algorithms. And then there is latent space watermarking, which the researchers refer to as tree ring. How does that move beyond traditional watermarks?
Well, traditional watermarks are just a layer of pixels stamped on an image. They can be easily cropped out or blurred by an adversary.
Right.
Tree ring takes a completely different approach. It embeds a mathematical proof of origin directly into the frequency domain, the underlying noise vector of an AI-generated image.
The frequency domain.
Think of it like weaving a microscopic invisible security thread into the actual fabric of a $100 bill, rather than just stamping an ink logo on top.
Oh, that makes sense.
Even if you tear the bill in half, compress the image, or alter the colors, forensic analysts can still extract that underlying frequency pattern to definitively prove the image was synthetically generated.
And trace it back.
Yes, trace it back to the specific AI model that created it.
That is a brilliant way to establish a chain of custody for digital reality. And the last defense highlighted in the policy review is more about platform design and policy. Algorithmic circuit breakers.
A very necessary policy.
Basically, if a piece of highly sensational media, like that fake Pentagon explosion picture, starts going viral at a speed that places it in the 99th percentile of organic growth, the social media platform's algorithm automatically hits a pause button.
It stops the spread.
Exactly. It doesn't delete the post, preventing cries of censorship, but it stops actively amplifying it into new feeds. It buys forensic analysts a crucial 60-minute window to check if it's a deepfake before it triggers a real-world crisis or a stock market crash.
And these active defenses are incredibly crucial because the fundamental asymmetry of cyber warfare heavily favors the attacker.
How so?
It costs mere pennies in computing power for a state actor to generate 1 million fake personas or thousands of deepfakes. But it costs targeted nations and private companies millions of dollars to build the infrastructure required to detect and mitigate them.
I see.
Active defenses like Fox and Tree Ring aim to change the underlying economics of the battlefield, making it vastly more expensive for the adversary to successfully launch these campaigns.
So what does this all mean for us? The overarching lesson from this massive stack of intelligence is that the battlefield has fundamentally expanded.
It really has.
War is no longer confined to the physical world of troops and kinetic munitions, nor is it limited to traditional cyberspace, where the goal was simply crashing a server. The new active battlefield is the cognitive domain.
The human mind.
Yes, adversaries are using the incredible scalable power of artificial intelligence to map our vulnerabilities, exploit our psychology, winganize the truth, and hijack the very digital algorithms we rely on to connect with each other and understand our world.
Furthermore, they are doing this seamlessly. They are integrating these digital and cognitive strikes directly alongside kinetic military operations, acting as a unified force multiplier, which is exactly the dynamic we are watching unfold right now in the Middle East with Operation Epic Fury.
I want to leave you listening with a scenario to mull over on your own today.
Let's hear it.
We know that AI can now perfectly clone a human voice with just 3 seconds of scraped audio. We know that data brokers have mapped your specific psychological vulnerabilities and financial anxieties. So what happens when a sophisticated nation-state decides that you, specifically, are the high-value target of a psychological operation?
That is a chilling thought.
Imagine you are at work. Your phone rings, and it is your boss's voice. The caller ID matches. The voice gives you an urgent, highly confidential directive to transfer funds or release secure data.
And it sounds exactly like them.
Right. And simultaneously, your curated social media feed perfectly confirms the urgency of the crisis your quote-unquote boss is describing. In a rapidly approaching world of weaponized truth, seamless data poisoning, and flawless deepfakes, how will you independently verify what is actually real?
This raises an important question about the resilience of our entire society. It's a profound challenge for all of us as we navigate this new reality.
It really is. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and we'll catch you next time.